Okay, so I'm Koraly Dimitriadis. I'm a poet, a writer, performer, actor, and they were both written after my divorce. And one of them, Love and Fuck Poems, explores sexual repression of women and how they deal with that, post-divorce, or finding and claiming your sexuality when it's been repressed by culture or religion. And just Give Me the Pills is about finding the courage to leave a marriage when you've been told all your life that you have to be, the good girl that gets married and has children and all these things. So I guess I always wanted to be a poet, but I never thought I could be one, because I just thought like you had to study and do all these things in order to be a poet. But I think that's just a lie that, people are told to keep different voices out of the arts sector and keep everyone the same and sounding boring. And when I left my marriage, it was just so hard because I had no support, because there's like, for women that want to leave a marriage because as a single parent, without any real hard evidence, that there's something terribly wrong, it's really hard to leave, because your whole family just wants you to stay because they think that that's what is the right thing for you and what's the right thing for the child. So a lot of that writing, and also just leading up to leaving the marriage, I wrote a lot of poetry, and I just found it really therapeutic to write that poetry, and then to just attend poetry events which have open mic sections, and just read my work and share it with other poets and other people. And it was through that community of sharing that I started to liberate myself from my marriage, and then from my culture, my religion, and to find who I am, and then from there, go from there. So I've always been really against someone teaching art. It's something that's in you that you want to express, and you can hone your creativity through community, like when I said before about reading poetry at poetry events and seeing how people respond, and then going back to your drawing board and working on poems further, and learning from other artists. And well, I've full-time care now, but I used to co-parent. So for co-parents, I would work on my art, like when my daughter was away. For single parents, it's a little harder, I guess. You just got to do it when it feels right for you. Like, don't put pressure on yourself. Don't feel like you have to be this special artist. Don't feel like you have to have a certain number of output. If you write one poem in 6 months and you go and perform it at an open mic, which they have open mics online now as well, which is great. If you look up like Melbourne Spoken Word, or there's lots of organizations that have events, you can go slowly at your own pace, and don't beat yourself up, because sometimes as well, like, to write our stories, we have to grow into the people to write that, the writer that needs to write the story. For example, if I published my book 15 years ago, it would be a different book, but I've matured in the last 15 years and I've got all this insight. And maybe now I'll publish this book, and then very quickly I'll publish another one 1 year later. Like, it's about your life and your pace, and creativity shouldn't be rushed or pressured out of people, and you shouldn't compare yourself to other people either. You go at your pace, and every story is important. You might write a story for yourself, you might write a story that you want to share with other people. You know, write like no one's ever going to read it, and then deal with it later. You know, if we're censoring ourselves at the first point, you know, we're not going to get anywhere. So we can always write and edit later, you know. So sometimes if you just have an urge to write, but you don't know what it's going to be, is it a poem? Is it going to be a short story? Is it going to be a novel? You don't know. Just write. You know, I mean, I remember when I was in Cyprus, which is where my parents are from, 1 year, and I was just writing randomly, just some stuff, and with no intention of it being, you know, any part of anything. And it ended up being that like I realized that, you know, this writing that I'd done actually is another point of view in my novel. You know, I don't know, I just keep going because I have this like thing inside me to communicate and help other women, because I didn't have that, you know, when I was going through leading out of my marriage and my divorce. I just didn't have that support. So I didn't have any artists that I knew that I could turn to, that I could read, that I could relate to, you know, from like you know, an immigrant background. So, you know, like, think about, you know, what your purpose is for your art. Do you want to communicate, you know, and you know, and hold on to that motivation, and it'll help. Like, single mothers just aren't like heard and respected enough. Like, you know, there'll be an anthology of, you know, short stories by mothers, and where's the single mother in that list? We're often forgotten. You know, the family law courts silence us, you know, and there's all this shame around being a single parent, especially from an immigrant background, you know. So we don't feel as alone. Like, I know for me, when I perform my poetry, you know, and I have women coming up to me saying to me, oh, that's my life, you know. I mean, the feeling that I get, you know, they might see me as this, like, you know, amazing person that's performing on stage, but really, like, all I'm looking for is just that acknowledgement that what I went through, you know, was hard, you know, and like trash, basically. You know, that stuff needs to be told and acknowledged, and, you know, and the more we can do that, the better for the future and for us. Well, I think just don't worry about what people think, just what other people will think. Just do what feels right for you. And you know, I'm happy for people to reach out to me as well. I'm on Facebook. You know, I talk to single mums all the time. So don't ever let anyone tell you that, oh, you can't do it because you didn't study and you didn't, you know, you don't have the qualifications, because that's just a way that, you know, once again, a way in which, you know, culture tries to censor women, because we don't have, you know, especially single parents, mothers don't have the same opportunities, because we have our children and we're just so time poor and we're so tired, and we just can't, you know, just go to university and you know, study when we've got kids to look after. So, you know, so just don't let anyone, you know, belittle you into thinking that you can't put your art out there and share it, because we need that.